Major League Baseball has announced their National League Silver Slugger finalists, and the Cardinals have more than one named to the list with a very good chance of taking home one of those titles. This is Card Central 365 here on a Wednesday. Joe Roderick, Brenden Schaeffer with you on STL Sports Central. All of our content brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. And Brenden, it was about a week ago. We were talking Gold Gloves. Victor Scott, kind of maybe a little bit of a surprise name on the list for center field, but Mason Wynn was expected to be one of those finalists for the shortstop position. Today, another two Cardinals named for Silver Slugger finalists. And I got to be honest, after watching this offense for 162 games this season, if you would have told me that no Cardinals were on the list, I don't think I would have been surprised at all.
I think that's fair, but there were a couple of performers that had good seasons, and I think the categories that are listed here for Silver Slugger also opens up the door to, potentially get one of them the award, because the Cardinals' two Silver Slugger finalists are actually in the same category, Joe. The utility category is what gets both Brendan Donovan and Alec Burleson in the mix, and they did have good offensive seasons. And so I guess if I had known did I know before today that there was a utility award for Silver Slugger? I can't say for sure, because once I saw it, I was like, oh, I guess that's a thing. But now that I do know and think about it a little bit, okay, they've got a 66% chance to see a Cardinal take home a Silver Slugger this year, because they're two of the three guys comprising the utility category.
Did you also know that there is a team category for Silver Slugger?
I think I had heard about that before, kind of like the Team Gold Glove. I know it's been a few years, but the Cardinals took that home once or twice in recent memory. And so I think I was maybe aware of that. I don't imagine the Cardinals were part of that, though.
They did not. No. The Cardinals did not make the top three for this. But yes, as you mentioned, Alec Burleson, Brendan Donovan, two of the three finalists for the utility position for the National League Silver Slugger. The third on the list, San Diego Padres, Jake Cronenworth, who was moved all around the infield and DH'd a bit for the Padres this past season. No other Cardinals listed there in the DH spot. It was Shohei, Kyle Schwarber, and Christian Yelich. I think with a full season, I think Iván Herrera probably would have found his name in that mix, but injuries probably hurt him for that position. And then at the first base position, it would be Pete Alonso, Freddie Freeman, and Matt Olson. Before we actually dive into the chances for Alec Burleson and Brendan Donovan, those are really, I mean, there's nobody else, nothing else really Silver Slugger wise that I would have expected the Cardinals to be in the mix when you look at the rest of these names.
No, there's not. First base, I wondered a little bit about with Wilson Contreras, but there's three high quality first basemen in the National League that had good seasons, and so that wouldn't have been the answer. I was trying to dig in a little bit to Christian Yelich to figure out the type of season he had. He was a sub 800 OPS, so I think that's fair. Certainly more name recognition, and especially at this stage in his career, to have another solid season. He was going to get recognized, I think, for that. If Iván Herrera had the counting stats, maybe the rate stats were there relative to Yelich, so he could have snuck in, I think, with that one, to your point. But there's nobody else that really jumps out. I think Burleson and Donovan were the two, most impactful players that played more of a complete season. Obviously, Donovan spending some time on the injured list too.
Yeah, and honestly, too, for both of these guys, I guess, if Brendan Donovan would have played the entire season at second base, you wonder if he still would have been listed as a second baseman finalist, going up against Nico Horner, Ketel Marte, and Bryce Terang. Alec Burleson wasn't going to get in there at first base with those three. But right, as far as the outfield goes, even then, I don't think makes it among the outfield. So both these guys definitely benefit from having that utility position listed.
Yeah, Donovan squeaks in too. He only played 18 games in left field, but he had another 6 that he appeared in and started 5 at shortstop, it appears. So, that I was kind of wondering as you were saying that, we remarked often how the Cardinals made it kind of clear they didn't want Donovan in left field, especially down the stretch. Like, they preferred him on the dirt. and their actions backed up that supposition. Alec Burleson, certainly a qualifier because he played 50 games, started 38 at first base. That's a more robust workload, and started 72 games across 2 different outfield spots, played almost equal amounts of left and right field. So certainly a qualifier defensively there. We know Cronenworth would be a qualifier for sure for his defensive versatility. I haven't looked to see how many positions he played, but I would bet it would be more than either of the 2 Cardinals just because of historically that's been the case. I wasn't necessarily tracking it this year, but let's take a look at Cronenworth. He saw, well, not really. He saw the majority of his work at second base this year and then mixed in at first and shortstop, played about 170 combined innings between first base and shortstop. So 3 different positions. Offensively, though, Joe, I really do think this is the Cardinals' award to lose. When you stuff the ballot box and you get 2 of the 3 candidates, that makes you feel better about your chances. But even statistically, I think both Cardinals actually stack up more favorably than Jake Cronenworth offensively in 2025.
Oh, absolutely. We'll get into the actual numbers and break those all down in just a second, but all content on STL Sports Central and Card Central 365, brought to you by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook app. And right now, if you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code STL Sports, you grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when we go live on December 1st. And that's good for anything. Basketball just tipped off last night. Hockey underway. Football and college and NFL still have a long way to go. So plenty of things to get in on when it goes live on December 1st. Use code STL Sports in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. So, as we mentioned, it is Alec Burleson, it's Brendan Donovan, it is Jake Cronenworth. You just said that it's the Cardinals to lose. I tell you what, I mean, Alec Burleson, when you look at the numbers of all 3 of these guys, Alec Burleson runs away with it. Like it really should not even be a competition. It shouldn't be close. I know I don't think they release actual voting or anything like that for these awards, but Alec Burleson, higher OPS, higher batting average, more home runs, more RBIs. He leads in every single category among these 3 players.
Yeah, I really am trying to dive into it and find an alternative angle to that. OPS plus is 125. He had the 800 OPS, which is the only of the 3 to do that. Donovan's OPS plus was 119. So as you mentioned, a little bit lower. Cronenworth, like what makes me happy is like I think a Cardinal's going to win it, even if it's like, oh, it's Donovan instead of Burleson. Like, does the All-Star nod help with the recognition of how this was voted for? I honestly don't know off the top of my head how the Silver Slugger voting exactly works. Winners are voted upon by managers and coaches and cannot vote for players on their own team. So like, does name recognition of Brendan Donovan, oh yeah, he was at the All-Star game in Atlanta, does that help him in any capacity with whether it's managers or whatever it is, coaches that may not, who knows the degree to which the voting is taken seriously. I assume like all of them will try to do their due diligence, but like realistically, there's going to be limits to that. So that might be the only way. But Donovan, like at least statistically, when you match him up, if you think Burleson's the best one, and it looks like he is on paper, he matches up. Donovan even matches up favorably in most categories to Cronenworth. 287 average beats out Cronenworth. The on-base percentage beats out Cronenworth. Slugging percentage beats him out. So therefore, OPS doesn't have more homers. It was 11-10. A few more RBI for Cronenworth. More games played though. So I think even if it was like a 1-2-3, I think the 2 Cardinals are first and second. I probably do lean Burleson though, and I think that is a guy that we're pretty confident is going to be here next year. Like with the Donovan stuff, we talked about it earlier this week. Does the Lars Nootbaar stuff end up impacting how they feel about whether or not they ought to trade Donovan? And I hope that's not the case, but could see that angle. With Burleson, I don't know. They would really be having to get a haul, like somebody knocking on their door, almost beating it down, in my opinion, for them to trade Alec Burleson, who's going to be kind of, you're hoping really becomes one of those tent pole bats that we talk about to carry a lineup in the years to come.
And on top of that too, yeah, Alec Burleson, if he is your Silver Slugger, in on the team, it's still a guy that is, normally a number 2 hitter for the Cardinals. That would be down in the order is 6th or below for the for any other team if he were to be traded to them based on those power numbers. But it's nice to have that slugger title attached to his name.
Yeah, and I like him as and he's hit 18 homers this year, had 21 last year in about a requisite number of plate appearances, had about 50 fewer plate appearances this year. So the home run rate was pretty much the same. And I don't even really think we view him as just a one-trick pony of a power guy. A 290 batting average in this day and age is nothing to sneeze at. And I know we kind of have every batting average conversation with the caveat of, well, batting average doesn't matter anymore. But that's to say that there are other things as well that you need to know to contextualize a batting average. When his on base is pushing 350, when he's slugging nearly 460 to put together a requisite OPS of 801, and he is popping about 20 home runs per season, he's striking out fewer than 80 times in both of those seasons, despite 546 and 595 plate appearances. That's a very complete hitter. And I think that's what Alec Burleson is becoming. I don't know if he'll ever be a 30 home run guy, Joe. I don't think he needs to be. I actually think he fits that number 2 slot in the order well, because he's a guy that will give you 20 and maybe 25. Maybe he develops into that home runs in a season, but he's also going to not strike out 100 times. And he's going to have a pretty good batting average relative to the rest of the league, which I think is, like you say, well, if somebody traded for him, he's batting lower in their order. Probably true, because the Cardinals don't have that volume of elite bats that are true anchors to the middle of their lineup at this point. But I think as they develop, hopefully, a lineup that eventually contains more of those types of bats, JJ Weatherholt maybe becomes one of those guys. Iván Herrera hopefully really establishes himself as one of those guys that you wouldn't look sideways at him batting anywhere 2 through 5 in a contending lineup. And then, you got to find maybe 1 or 2 more of those guys to really get the Cardinals competitive again. But I don't think anybody would look sideways at Alec Burleson on the other side of a Cardinals kind of retool, still being a guy that's in the very middle of their lineup or near the top of it because of the skill set that he has developed and demonstrated over the last couple of seasons.
I just want to point out, too, that I greatly avoided calling Alec Burleson a 6 or 7 hitter due to the fact that I have a 12-year-old at home, and many of the people watching this, I would imagine, can feel my pain when they hear those two numbers side by side.
I'm watching the kid in their room like Harry Potter in the broom closet. If when that day comes for my son, who's not close to 12 yet, but I can only imagine what that's like right now.
It sucks, and many people watching this, I imagine, are going to agree with me. The winners for the National League announced Thursday, November 6th. Thursday this week is when the American League finalists will be announced. Leave your comments below. Let us know who you think between Burleson or Donovan should go home with the utility Silver Slugger, and if any Cardinals were missed on this. And when you look at the finalists for all of the positions. Until tomorrow, and he is Brenden Schaeffer. I'm Joe Roderick. This has been Card Central 365.